Hi, this is Andrea, and I'm back again to talk to you about medical staff. This is HIT 421, and we're looking at Chapter 19. Are you ready? All right, let's dive in. So, what is the medical staff? It's your group of providers that have been credentialed and privileged by your organization, your healthcare organization, to provide services to patients, services and care. So, that's really what we're going to be talking about. It starts with the governing board. The governing board is the one who sets a lot of the rules and has ultimate oversight over the medical staff. Now, typically, your governing body is a board, and there's usually at least one physician as a board member. And then your chief of staff or president of the medical staff attends those board meetings as well and submits a report. So, boards meet on different bases, different time frames. I've had some organizations where the board meets on a monthly basis if there's issues or concerns that are going on. I've seen other healthcare organizations where the board meets every other month. Um, at the very least, they need to meet quarterly. There's just so much now for a healthcare organization's board to go through when you talk about quality and finance and performance and credentialing and all those other things that are going on, that once a quarter is really not often enough. Most find themselves either in every month or every other month, depending on the situation. So just that gives you an idea there. The process for the medical staff is that they are self-governed. They have what are called medical staff bylaws and medical staff rules and regulations. They're two different documents. The medical staff bylaws are sort of the overarching rules contract that binds all of the medical staff, tells them what options they have if they disagree with something, how to get credentialed, how to get privileged, different timelines, mandatory items like history and physical reports, and those types of things. The rules and regs are a little bit more flexible in terms of being able to be modified. And those are developed through the medical staff themselves as a group, as a body. They vote on those. And it can be a lot more detailed. And then beyond that, you can actually have medical staff policies and procedures. And those, again, are typically approved by the medical staff, a group of the medical staff, or the medical staff executive committee, which has department chairs from all the departments that sit on that. And that the medical staff executive committee typically meets on a monthly basis, and they go through and they do all the more day-to-day routine things. From the medical staff executive committee, that rolls up to the board, and so a summary of that goes there. But on a quarterly basis, usually the medical staff themselves have their own meeting, and a lot of that information from the med exec group comes through there and is made aware to them, in addition to emails and memos and other types of communication that they have with providers. So you can take a look at the next couple of pages, because we started really on page 476, and you can go through and see some of the other things that are in there. On 479 is the medical staff executive committee that I was talking about. There are different types of membership. And again, this is in the medical staff bylaws. You have your active physicians, you have your associate or courtesy physicians, you have your consulting physicians, you have your honorary or emeritus groups. Some medical staffs limit it to physicians. Some extend membership to mid-levels, such as PAs, nurse practitioners, those types of things. It just really depends on your medical staff, on the bylaws, how they've created it to function. There are sometimes roles and privileges that go with one and not the other. For instance, mid-levels can do certain things or have certain activities, have certain voting rights, but they'll be different than your active physicians that are involved, just so you're aware. And I have worked closely with medical staff services throughout my career, and I had the privilege of leading medical staff services and sitting on executive committee meetings and working directly with med exec leaders, um, and really enjoyed that. And that colors a lot of what I'm sharing with you, that experience that I've had. Miss those guys and ladies; they were wonderful to work with. Worked a lot with the chief medical officer, and did a lot of credentialing and privileging. So I can talk a long time about that, and I'll try not to because these videos get long very quickly. So credentialing is basically giving membership to a provider. It's giving them the ability to practice within your organization. Privileging is saying the specific things they can do when they practice. You may have heard of core privileging. That has really become popular in recent years. I'd say within the last 10 years, most everyone has moved to core privileging, which is basically to say that if you're an OBGYN, all OBGYNs have these basic core privileges. And then if they learn an additional procedure, what have you, they're additionally privileged for that outside of the core. But there are certain things that every OBGYN will know and be able to adequately do based on their training and their board certification, all those types of things. Physicians are credentialed once when they join the organization. Then after that, they are re-credentialed usually every 2 years. So that process happens fairly frequently every 2 years, and they have to resubmit documents. We have to go out and look for the primary source documents. We have to check government websites. We have to check with the state medical board. There's all sorts of things that go into it. We have to verify continuing education hours. There's a long list, but that's what happens with credentialing. And so again, it's going to talk about those. We have to check the National Practitioner Data Bank. That's on page 483. That's all in there. And we also check references. Providers have to have references, professional references, and we have to get those back in writing and be able to put that all in the file. Once it's together, usually the department chair will go through it and make sure that it's appropriate, that we're not, we double check it to make sure we're not missing anything before it goes to the department chair, of course. Then the department chair does their review. And then it goes to, if there's someone who's the head of the credentials committee, they'll take a look at it before it, and then it'll be vetted in the credentials committee. That's usually a subcommittee of the med exec. And med exec then will take a look at it. But the person is not credentialed officially until they go through the board, except in cases of emergency credentialing. Sometimes you have a situation where you've got to get an ED doc in a week's time. You get all your basic information that you're going to need. It's reviewed, it's approved on an emergency temporary basis, and you get them in there and they're working. And then that's for a limited specified period of time. And if they stay on past that, they have to go through the whole process. And even while they're there, we continue to gather information and data, and it's continuing to be reviewed and those types of things. So I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to talk about medical staff duties and rights because you can read all that. Disciplinary actions and suspensions, that all comes under your bylaws. Your medical staff bylaws should all specify out what are the steps of the investigation of what the provider can say and do, what the organization can say and do, and how that all works out. I have been in situations where, unfortunately, we've had to look at letting physicians go and how that was handled and that sort of thing, and the steps that have to be involved in that. And again, because there's legal repercussions, you have to be very careful that everything is documented and that everything really was followed and done in a respectful way. Because at the end of the day, all of those providers are human beings. They all are human in the sense that no one's perfect. None of us are. And you want to make sure that how it's done is respectful and dignified, and that they're given every opportunity to turn the situation around if that is even possible. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. And you just want to work well with them to make sure that as best you can, the relationship remains positive. So that takes us right through the end of that chapter, which was short. I'm surprised that they didn't go into medical staff rules and regs a little bit more, but again, you'll get some tastes of that as we go along, and we'll definitely cover that in other areas. If you have questions about medical staff rules and regs, credentialing, privileging, all of that, I'd be glad to answer that. And who knows, we might get a chance to sit down and talk about it at one point in the future. It's a great opportunity for HIT professionals to go into medical staff credentialing and privileging. You can do that with your background. It's another alternative for you in terms of a career. NAMS is the national organization that you would want to look up. N is in Nancy, A is in Apple, M is in Mary, S is in Sam, S is in Sam. NAMSS. And you can look them up and see about their information and what they require. Most medical staff individuals are trained on the job, but from having been in there as an RHIA, HIM professional, I would strongly suggest that RHITs get involved in that field, because you'll definitely use that. Working with the medical staff, documentation, and helping, making sure that the right audits are being done for focused professional practice evaluation, which is FPPE, and OPPE, which is ongoing professional practice evaluation, and all of those requirements. It's a fascinating field. I hope you've enjoyed reading that chapter and gained some insights from it. I'm going to finish up this video now, and hopefully I'll get a chance to record for chapter 20 next. Take care. Talk to you again soon. Bye.